Okay, the NFL draft is officially in the books,
Wow.
which means we can finally look at actual rankings that matter
Let's go.
for Dynasty rookie drafts in
Not really.
2023. That's what we're doing today. We're going to rank our top 26, our top 6 tiers or so, and tell you where we currently stand. Hopefully, it helps you if anyone's out there doing rookie drafts
That's right.
or startups, I guess. But do us a massive favor. Go ahead and smash that like button to show us some support.
Come on,
Let's
baby.
try and hit 200 likes on this video. Comment down below where some of these players are, if you think they should be higher, if you think they should be lower. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content. And if you want updated Dynasty rankings every couple days so you are on top of your rookie and startup drafts,
That's
go
right.
ahead and use our code LAND, LAND, when signing up to flockfantasy.com. If you go to the direct link in the description or in the comments, you'll see it. Make sure you use our code LAND. If you use our code LAND and you sign up to the Mother Flocker tier, Badaki and I will be grading one of your Dynasty teams for
Come
you.
on.
You'll have access to the fancy hotline where you can ask us questions
That's
and
right.
a bunch more. So, Badaki, there are 6 tiers here. Who do you have in your tier 6?
My tier 6 right now, I guess the first person we can kind of talk about is, let's start with Michael Wilson. I have Michael Wilson in here.
Yes.
In my tier 6, great decent landing spot, not the best draft capital. But
I would argue that it's actually better draft capital than I was anticipating.
Yeah, that is correct. Better draft capital than we were anticipating, but still has to kind of go through a lot of hurdles. But this is one of my first people I have here in my tier 6.
Yeah, I would agree as well. One of those sleeper wide receivers for me heading into the draft that I like, depending on where it went or where he went, what draft capital he got, could have determined. I would have him in this top 6. He's currently my 25th ranked player in Superflex rookie rankings. So we're on the same page there. He goes to Arizona. There's an opportunity for him to develop a role. That's all I'll say. I also have Hendon Hooker in this tier 6. I'm not sure where you have Hooker, but is it in this tier 6? Do you have him ranked?
I don't have him ranked.
Don't have him ranked?
I said this last time.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said this last time in our video or in our live stream. If there was a team that kind of traded up in the second, I think the third round is too late. 1, 2, the team that he goes to with Jared Goff and this team that is so successful. Like, you said it, we both said it. It's hard to see him fail.
Sure.
Jared Goff specifically, and it's going to be hard to see Hendon Hooker get on the team. So I currently don't have him ranked in my top 24, 25, 26 area.
So he's my 26th ranked player at the moment. So I do have Michael Wilson ahead of him. He barely made this tier 6 as my last player. And it's difficult because you're right. I agree. It's hard to see Jared Goff failing on this team. And third round is not ideal whatsoever. But I do think back to how Russell Wilson became a fantasy relevant player.
Yeah.
I also think back to how Dak Prescott became a fantasy relevant player. And if Hendon Hooker does at some point, for whatever reason, become the starter for this team, that's one of the best dart throws. And I've said this on previous videos, but I feel like there's a lot of dart throws in this year's rookie draft.
That's
Hendon Hooker is one hell of a dart throw if he hits. So I'm not going to put him, my top 12 or top 15 or top 20, but I have him right there at 26. So I'll just advocate him to be in that tier, but I'm also not upset if he's not. I just think, there's just so many uncertainties this year that I feel like he's worth a risk in a Superflex league, is what I'll say.
That definitely makes sense, and I'm okay if you want to have him there, you can, and put him there. My next guy I have in this tier, I have Chase Brown in this tier. I don't know where you have him.
Same. I love that.
Yeah,
Same
Chase Brown, downtown, one of my top guys coming into this draft. Doesn't get the best draft capital, but he does go to the Cincinnati Bengals, kind of backing up Joe Mixon. So it looks like Joe's clear for this year, but if Joe does go down, if something happens, he's kind of takes over that Samaje P. Ryan role, steps into a workload. So I have him here in my tier 6.
I 100% agree with you. And in fact, we are about to record Dynasty sleepers to target in rookie drafts.
Yeah.
And that is one of the names I'm about to bring to you guys. That video will be out today.
Yes.
After this video, I would say in an hour or two, you'll see rookie sleepers. So I'll save my take on Chase Brown for later, but I agree. The other player I have here is Luke Musgrave. I wanted to put him higher, but again, just trying to be realistic with the tight end position and how long it typically takes for them to be productive at the position. And then also, I understand Musgrave is the better receiving threat, and that's good for fantasy. But they did draft tight ends in back-to-back rounds. They went Musgrave, and then they went Tucker Kraft. I understand that the depth chart was already weak, but I don't know that I trust Musgrave over some of these other tight end options. So to me, when I was thinking of tight ends that I could draft, Musgrave at this very moment, and we want to stay fluid because we're still wrapping our head around this class, I would put him in tier 6. I don't know about you.
I have him in my tier 5. He's actually the last player in my tier 5.
Okay.
So I think that kind of makes sense. Once again, really fluid. Like you said, he can either go up or down. I think the draft capital is really great for Luke. He was one of the first weapons that the Green Bay Packers drafted. So I think he is going to play a big part of this offense. But you're right. How fast is that going to come back for you in a fantasy points per game perspective, or just points in general, right? So I can definitely see the argument, but I'm happy to
think of like Trey McBride last year. We loved him as a prospect, and he didn't gain any value. It's not that he did anything wrong; he just didn't gain any value.
Yeah.
So let me ask you: do you have anyone else in your tier 6 then? Because Luke was the last person I had in this tier 6.
Yeah, no, I don't have anyone in my tier 6. So I just had the 3. I think it's I actually had the 2, and my tier 5 is actually really long.
Yeah, my tier 5 is big as well. So let's get into this tier 5. Can I actually rename this tier 5 to Dart Throw City? Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Players who didn't get great landing spots, but got pretty good draft capital, or prospects that we weren't in love with that went higher than we anticipated. These are all guys that I think take a shot on them, and I'm not going to judge you or disagree with you if you have them ranked in any particular way. But let's start off Dart Throw City with Tank Bigsby. Ooh. I don't know where you have him.
I do have him. I do have him in this tier. I am bringing him in another video, like we're kind of talking about. So I don't want to get too much into it. So you can kind of tell your process here.
Sure. I mean, look, I just don't personally believe that Tank Bigsby. When I look at running backs who are capped by their landing spots, to me, Tank Bigsby is one of those running backs.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I didn't like him as a prospect more than other people. I understand it was 3rd round, and that's great, but you still have Travis Etienne there. So in my opinion, like, what is the true upside unless an Etienne injury happens? And I understand. I'm not saying that Bigsby will be irrelevant, but I feel like he's more like the 30-40% role in an offense rather than ever being over that 50 mark. So
yeah, that's fair.
I'll put him there in Dart Throw. Let me start asking you then, because I have a lot of people, but who else do you have here?
I have Marvin Mims in here as well.
Yeah, I've also got Marvin Mims in this Dart Throw City.
Yeah. They traded up to acquire Marvin Mims. If I'm not mistaken, he's a second round, one of the last picks in the second round, going to obviously the Denver Broncos. So I think that is really.
Sorry to interrupt. I think it's important to say that was their first pick.
Yeah.
As that staff together,
and they went to go get this guy.
That was their first decision to make together. So
yeah, so it's very interesting for Marvin Mims, a guy that I like coming out of there. So I'm really excited to see what he can do in this offense.
Yeah. Agreed. I also have Sam Laporta in this tier. Laporta is interesting. You liked him better than I did as a prospect, and he got great draft capital. And the landing spot isn't bad by any means. No. It's just trying to figure out when he becomes
irrelevant, fantasy relevant at all.
Yeah, there's just so many people to compete with now. That's with Amon-Ra. When Jameson comes back, Jahmyr Gibbs is clearly going to be involved in the air. Maybe we're overthinking it at this very moment, and that could change. But anyway, again, he's a great dart throw if you need a tight end.
He is, and I think that is the hardest thing. And I think once again we're fluid here, and I might argue to have Luke over Sam, but I did have these guys back to back in this tier for me. By the way, so I think there can be an argument.
You have Luke over Sam at the moment.
I have Sam over Luke. Sorry.
Okay, same.
But I think there's an argument to be had that Luke can be over Sam based off of the landing spot. I guess that's where I'm trying to go.
I hear you. The other side of that coin, though, is that Sam Laporta's offense will be better.
Agreed.
For the next couple of years, most likely.
Agreed.
Okay, I also have another Green Bay Packer, Jaden Reed, in this tier. Jaden Reed is not a player that I'm going to sit here and pretend with you guys that I was obsessed with as a prospect.
Yeah.
I believe he's a fifth-year player. Had some issues with his COVID season, had good production one of those years, transferred to Michigan State, I believe from Western Michigan. Fun guy to watch on film. Really fun, like a
Yeah.
elusive weapon type player, good route runner, good speed. And they drafted him high. I can't go all in on Jaden Reed. I don't think he's deserving of like first round draft capital
No.
like Christian Watson was early second round last
No.
year. But I still think he's worthy of drafting as a dart throw again in this tier. When you think about, okay, it's really Romeo Dobbs and Jaden Reed competing here. And as much as I love Dobbs, there's nothing about his game that would make me say Reed is going to be irrelevant.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And a lot of people in the industry really do like Jaden Reed. So
Yeah.
there should be something said about that.
He is definitely a guy that I'm bringing once again another video, but all the points that you kind of hit on is kind of where I'm leaning with Jaden Reed. Really good draft capital, second round draft capital, the second weapon for this offense in Jordan Love. So once again, the video that's coming out in an hour from now, and when you're watching this video, go check that out because that's where who I'm going to be talking about.
Okay, I have Rashee Rice in this tier.
Richie Rice, absolutely. I have him here as well. Hey, he's going to get the Chiefs bump, but I think a lot of people are going to say, I'm not going to make the same mistake this time. And I think he is either going to be a person that is going to stay right in the middle or he's going to fall. But I think there is, so many mouths to feed, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Travis Kelce, but I think he brings something different. I think that is physicality, and I think that's exactly what they want. Now, is it amazing? No. But
I'm gonna say, and somehow he's the worst route runner on the team from day
and
one.
somehow he is. But they did trade up for him. They trade up for him. They really wanted him. So I think that once again, not something to be overlooked. But he does play with one of the best quarterbacks, in the NFL. Yeah. So that cannot be overlooked.
Yeah. He went one pick after where Sky Moore went last year. So it's not like, at least I personally don't think someone can make the case like he's this better prospect or they view him higher than Sky Moore. I'm in on him as a dart throw. What I'm worried about is the Chief bump in like a week or two when we get reliable ADP. He ends up being like a back of the first round pick. And that's when I'll start to have a real issue because there's a lot of holes in his profile as a prospect, and he's not very good at getting separation, which as someone who follows the Chiefs, that was our entire wide receiver room last year. No one could create separation, but I know this was a Mahomes pick. He wanted Rashee Rice, so like maybe Rice. I wonder what that was. Not out of the possibility that Rice could be an impact player for this team.
Yeah,
it's just let's see if he can separate himself from the rest of the group. So, okay, who else do you have in this tier?
I also have Josh Downs in this tier.
Okay.
A guy, once again, I was really hoping for. I was hoping that he was going to get second round draft capital. He does land to the Indianapolis Colts in the third round, but I think he now becomes a dart throw. Now with Anthony Richardson, the ceiling is, I wouldn't say, it kind of stays the same, right? Anthony Richardson is going to use his legs, and it might be a little bit more of a struggle in a fantasy perspective. But if we're once again going back to Jalen Hurts and what Shane Steichen has done, can Anthony Richardson do that? So Josh Downs in his second year, can he be something? I think he can, but I have him here in this tier 5.
Okay, I gotta be honest for a second. I do not have Josh Downs ranked.
Wow. Okay.
I know that's shocking, but let me just tell you what I'm thinking, and we can have a conversation about it. I'm not going to take him away from anyone, but I do like the prospect, and maybe I should just bet on the talent. What I'm extremely concerned about is I don't see a scenario in which Josh Downs' value is higher this time next year. What is Anthony Richardson's problem as a prospect? He is the most inaccurate player coming out of this class by far. He's the most inaccurate player. And we don't really have any sort of examples of him being this air raid, get a lot of people involved type of quarterback. I fully envision year one Anthony Richardson being kind of Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields-esque, right? And did you want a wide receiver on Justin Fields' team last year? No, absolutely not. I mean, the Colts could be in the category of fewest pass attempts per game this year, and Josh Downs is not beating out Michael Pittman. He's probably a better player than Alec Pierce, but Alec Pierce got better draft capital.
Yep.
So I struggle to see a scenario in which Josh Downs has any sort of reliable volume. And we are hoping the reason I'm so comfortable with Richardson is because of his rushing upside. But I still have a ton of question marks about him as a passer. And that makes me really question whether Josh Downs can, to no fault of his own, really improve his value within Dynasty in year one. A rookie quarterback, even Trevor Lawrence, even these good passers out of college come in as rookies and struggle. We're talking about now Anthony Richardson, who was, on par with Josh Allen as far as being really badass passers in college, and we're expecting them to take that progression over time. I struggle to see Downs being this guy who, has an Amon-Ra St. Brown type season, or, any sort of Olave or Jahan Dotson. I just don't see that in the range of outcomes. And maybe I'm overthinking it, but he is the first player in my tier 7. So I don't have him ranked, but maybe I'm being too harsh. And I would be happy to meet you in the middle by putting Downs at the end and dropping Luke Musgrave to tier 6, if you're happy with that.
Yeah. I think that is definitely something we should do. I lean more on the talents, both of Anthony Richardson and Josh Downs, to kind of figure it out, to kind of understand and give them the benefit of the doubt to kind of upbring something. And I would actually lean more on Josh Downs over, I guess, the people that we've kind of talked about right now, Michael Pittman.
Okay.
Sorry, not Michael Pittman, Michael Wilson, Jaden Reed, Marvin Mims, all those guys. Well, maybe not Marvin Mims. I think there's a different conversation to be had just based off draft capital.
Sure.
But based off talent, I think
maybe I am being too harsh. I don't know. But he didn't get the draft capital that everyone said he would get, right?
No, he didn't.
It's not like you can claim that. He didn't go to a pass-friendly offense. And when we talk about relying on Anthony Richardson as a talent, if we heard anyone talk about Anthony Richardson, whoever evaluates the NFL draft this year, they didn't say one thing about him being a good passer. So again, Josh Downs is now reliant upon Anthony Richardson, and I'm just not sure that there's going to be enough for him to be this player that we're excited about. So
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure.
Why don't we just meet in the middle there?
Yeah.
And again, maybe I am being too harsh, but I struggle to see a scenario in which he's this breakout in year one.
Yeah.
But let's just leave it there. And I would love to know what people think in the chat. Maybe I'm being too harsh. I'd love to hear what people think in the comments. Okay. So after Josh Downs, I don't have Josh Downs there, but after Rashee Rice, I have Jonathan Mingo in this tier.
Yes, I have Mingo here as well.
This is one of those draft classes where, for me, after the top 4, Johnston, Addison, Flowers, and JSN, I had so many question marks. So many. And for me not to be bullish on a prospect that, is in this category, I do have to rely on the draft capital at that point,
Yeah.
Mingo doesn't have the best profile, but he's a crazy athlete, and he was drafted higher than all these other guys, going to a situation with a young quarterback. They'll be in OTAs together. They'll be in rookie camps together.
The whole upbringing.
And, it just makes sense
important, I think,
to give him an opportunity in this dart throw category.
Yeah, everything's important here for Jonathan Mingo, and I think that is the biggest thing, like you said. Why was Jahan Dotson so successful early in the season was because Terry was out. Terry was holding out, and then he was getting that chemistry with Carson Wentz. That could be the same said for Jonathan Mingo when he comes in. They coming on, probably not coming in the same plane, same first days, right? Like they're all coming in having
they'll
those
be
things.
in rookie camp together.
And rookie camp, and I think all that's very important of the upbringing, especially for this offense. So, and this is one of the first weapons that they draft for Bryce Young. I think he is in this tier, but I think there could be an argument him going higher later on. as the season gets closer and closer, if we do have another top 24 rookie, which I doubt, we're not going to do another one close to the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jonathan Mingo here fits right here, tier 5.
Okay, I have 3 more players in this tier. Rashawn Johnson,
Yep.
who I'll talk about in a video here today that you guys will see in an hour or so.
Big ol' Roscoe.
I've got Kendre Miller,
Yes, I have him as well.
who got the 3rd round capital to the Saints. I guess we'll talk about Kendre just quickly. He was one of those running backs for me who was in my tier 3, and I said, whoever gets the draft capital, they'll be the highest. It was such a big list.
Yeah.
Kendre's that guy. He has a profile to handle a lot of opportunities. This, to me, them signing Jamal Williams and drafting Kendre Miller, to me, signals that something is going to change. And I know a lot of people are saying Jamal Williams will be the one who's losing out, but I wonder if it's not Alvin Kamara, if they're not going to trade him, release him to save money on his contract, what's going on with him legally. But regardless, I think Kendre Miller does have an opportunity to go out, win this job at camp when Kamara is suspended, and be someone that we're talking about in the first couple weeks of the season.
I can definitely see it, and the only reason why I am hesitant, because if Kamara is not moved from this team and Kamara is not suspended, then what happens? I think the only way, I think that's my worry, right? Because if he doesn't get suspended or misses some time, which kind of feels like it's wild if he doesn't, Kendre Miller, where does he fall? Right? Does he become the number 2? Is he the number 3? But I think that all lands on and falls on Alvin Kamara, and this is why he's in this tier 5 for me. I think he can, once again, argument that he can be lower. But once Alvin Kamara is off this team, which by the way, it's kind of hard to sell now unless he gets traded to the Saints. If he gets traded to like the Bills, right? The Eagles don't need another running back unless they go hella super team. But it's kind of difficult now because all those guys that we were expecting to get running backs don't. So I think there's limited teams that he can go to now.
There was just such a, like, as someone who owned Alvin Kamara and watched Saints games last year, there was such a disconnect between Alvin and this team and this coaching staff. They didn't utilize him properly. He was angry. He was also not himself. He didn't look like old Alvin Kamara. Something is in the air. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I hear you.
I have one more player in this tier, and that's Michael Mayer. Didn't get 1st round capital, and I honestly did not expect him to fall out of the 1st round.
Same.
Now, he does get early 2nd to the Raiders. It's a great landing spot. Jimmy G has a vast history of making tight ends relevant in fantasy football, but still, it's not 1st round capital. That was what we kind of needed to feel in love with Michael Mayer. But yeah, he would be at the top of this tier, and that would be it for me. I don't know about you.
I have him in my tier 4.
Okay.
Who I actually have in this tier is Devin. And I know we will see that differently.
Okay.
But and let me tell you, because I know we've had this conversation outside of our live stream. The reason why I have Devin here is not because I don't like the landing spot. It's because I do see this upside capped in some way later on in coming into the season, or not even later on. And once again, I know a big argument is that, we don't draft for the future, or we don't draft just for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, or some people do. But I think Devin is going to have a struggle coming in. He is going to get the work in the air. But what happens if Raheem is healthy? What happens if Jeff Wilson's healthy? And he didn't get the draft capital that we were all expecting, but goes to one of the best running back landing spots. So I think there's an argument here. Not saying I don't want to put him in tier 4, but I'd rather have Michael Mayer in tier 4. I think that's my difference.
So you're drafting Michael Mayer over Devin A-Chain?
Yes, I would be.
Oh man, I don't understand. I will give you Michael Mayer in tier 4. We've had a lot of disagreements on Devin A-Chain. I've been, someone who has backed him throughout this process. And to be honest, most people have been against me on it. And I think a lot of people are in now because of the landing spot. But my overall opinion has been since day one, if he lands with Miami, this is the perfect landing spot. This team plays with speed. I trust the head coach. And you could see him smiling when they made that pick, thinking about all the ways that he's going to utilize Devin A-Chain. You said, what if Raheem Mostert is healthy? What if Jeff Wilson is healthy?
Yeah.
And those are two things I'm happy to bet on especially Raheem Mostert being 32 years old or whatever it is. I don't think there's a better landing spot for a running back and a better fit for this player, Devin Achane, than the Miami Dolphins. And I personally don't find a scenario in which I will be drafting Michael Mayer over him.
That's fine. Yeah.
Personally.
And one of the, I guess I will close with this. And one of my big reasons, once again, I didn't have a full explanation. I've never had a full explanation. And we kind of said, we talked about this. My concern is that just like what we're doing right now, didn't have the best draft capital, and Devin Achane's an undersized back. What if they get a high caliber running back like a Jahmyr Gibbs next year, or not even a high caliber running back? What if they just get a second round running back that is a first and second down guy or a pass catching guy? And I think that is my concern. Once again, still very talented, still can be a pass catching guy. Yeah. He's going to get all the work in the air for sure. But I think that is my biggest thing coming into this year.
And my pushback again would be, we don't like value. It's very difficult to value players a year out from now. And people do not value players that long in advance. Like when we're in season, weeks 1, 2, 3, all the way to 17, people will change their mind about dynasty players every single week, and they'll value them differently. And you talk about the draft capital. You and I, Badaki, have been begging people to trade Tyler Algier all offseason. They didn't care. So I think even if you don't think Devin Achane is going to be the long-term answer, he's the best value, and he will give you the most bang for your buck in trades on the board at the moment, in my opinion. So, but let's just agree to disagree and put Achane and Michael Mayer in tier 4 and just meet in the middle there. Okay, also in this tier 4, Badaki, I have Zach Charbonnet. And I think what's surprising to me, the fact that you don't have Devin Achane in the same tier as Charbonnet, because I think it's almost consensus right now across the board. I would say like 70% of people, not analysts, but people, are taking Achane over Charbonnet. I am with you in the sense that I think Charbonnet still should be drafted ahead of Achane. The draft capital is better. He is a better player. He has the opportunity to handle a full workload. I understand the situation is terrible.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to draft the better player. And he's still in a good offense. It's just not ideal at all. So I'll take Charbonnet over Achane, but I'm assuming you would agree, obviously.
Yeah. I have Charbonnet here. I do have Charbonnet obviously over Achane. Yeah, capital, landing spot, not ideal. Capital ideal, landing spot not ideal. But if this is a true 50-50 workload, that they can both flourish in some way. Well, Kenneth Walker gets hurt, but somehow Zach Charbonnet is our middle RB2, then is probably not ideal for what we want, but maybe we just have to be okay with it. So I'm okay with Zach Charbonnet here in tier 4.
Yeah. And I think it is also unrealistic to expect Achane to be the workhorse in Miami for 4 years, right? So at some point, Achane's going to have a partner there, and maybe they already see Jeff Wilson or Raheem Mostert as that.
Yeah.
But I think because we saw Gibbs and Bijan go top 12 in the first round this year, people are forgetting, one, how rare that is, and two, how good second round draft capital is. Second round capital for a running back is no mistake. This is not Charbonnet was on the board, they decided to make the pick. No, people not only have needs in the second round, but there are very talented players on the board. You don't draft a running back in today's NFL by accident. Like clearly they value him to make that sort of investment, on him. So I don't think we can undervalue that. I also have Will Levis in this tier. I don't know about you, but he's a difficult one to fully wrap your head around.
He is.
One pick technically out of the first round because we had Miami's pick revoked. So he ended up being pick 32. And it's not as if the Colts...
Pick 33.
Let me ask you this, Badaki. What is the chance that Will Levis... what is the percentage chance that Will Levis gets on the field this year?
I would say it's about like 20% right now.
Really? You only think 20?
Yeah,
I mean, if
because
that's the case, I don't think he should be this high. I would put that at like a 60% chance
the
that
only
he gets
reason
a chance
the only
to
reason
play.
why I say that is because Ryan Tannehill, if he is healthy, because the only reason why Ryan Tannehill, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, the only reason why Malik Willis was even on the field was because Ryan Tannehill got injured, and if he didn't get injured, then we wouldn't have seen Malik. So I
That has
think,
a lot more to say about Malik Willis than it does Ryan Tannehill, though.
and you're right. And I think if Ryan Tannehill does stay healthy, he will get the full slate, and will sit the whole time. Which means, are they going to be ready to move on from Tannehill if his contract is up and not wanting to pay him, and then go straight with Will? So I'm believing in not this year, but the year two belief. And if he does get a second half season with like 6 games, 5-6 games, then I think that's okay. But I'm believing in the talent that when I saw, and him getting onto the field, and the draft capital, to be fair, and the draft capital.
To me, the only way he doesn't get on the field is if this team is competing for the playoffs. And they were not a very good team last year, and they lost pieces. So if they're like 6-7 or something, somewhere in between the season, like Will's going to take the field.
Yeah, and I would agree there. I would agree there as well. But yeah, once again, if Tannehill, because Tannehill missed 2 games, and then he missed the last 3 games of the season, and I think that's when we saw Malik, right, and then we saw Josh Dobbs. So if that happens again for Ryan Tannehill, then they would go with Will Levis. But I'm right now, I'm projecting him. Honestly, just probably sit the whole season, sit back, relax, learn, and then get onto the field.
Man, that would really, really surprise me, but I could be wrong for sure. Well, at least we have them in the same tier.
Yeah.
Maybe for different reasons. The last player I have in this tier would be Dalton Kincaid.
Yes.
Selected in the first round to an incredible offense, and he will be a complementary piece to Stephon Diggs at some point in an air raid offense, one of the offenses that pass, top 10 per game in the NFL. I know he's going to hit. It's just when. So that's why he's not in a tier higher. But can we agree here? I want to go to tier 3. Is there anyone else that you have?
No, that's it. That's all I have in my tier 3.
Okay, let's head to tier 3.
Or tier 4.
Yeah, that's okay. I have only have 3 players in here, and I don't know how this is going to go because I know how much you love Quentin Johnston, but my 3 players, and I will just say from tier 1 to 3, I feel incredible about drafting these players. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Like, this is my safe zone. From tier 1 to 3, if I get one of these players in a rookie draft, I'm happy. I would be willing to trade up from the 112, give all my second round picks to get into the 1-4 or the 1-5. Like, I don't care. It's a quality over quantity draft for me.
Yeah.
But here in tier 3, this is where I would have Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
This is where I would have Jordan Addison.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I would have Quentin Johnston.
Okay.
Those would be my 3 in tier 2, in tier 3.
In tier 3. Okay. We would have this a little bit different. I actually have, so the way I broke this down is, and maybe this might be kind of sneaking into tier 1 and tier 2, but the way I broke it down is I have all my wide receivers in tier 3. I have all my quarterbacks in tier 2 with Jahmyr Gibbs. And then obviously the 101 with Bijan. So that's kind of how I broke it down mentally. And then that may be a bit confusing. But I still have Quentin as my first wide receiver in that tier, if that makes any sense.
Right. I get you. You have Jahmyr Gibbs. You have JSN down here in tier 3.
Yeah. And then I have the...
This is just another one of those scenarios for me where this is one of those players I cannot bend on. JSN to me is an elite wide receiver prospect.
Mm-hmm.
I understand he didn't go top 15, but all signs in his profile point to him to be, towards being elite. He joins an offense that was very pass happy last year. They were a top 5 to 10 scoring offense in the NFL, and they only got better. I understand Tyler Lockett is there, but I think it's a great spot, and I love how he complements DK Metcalf personally. So I would need Jackson Smith in tier 2. I would sacrifice anywhere else, but I need JSN in tier 2.
Yeah, well, I guess if that's the case, then Quentin goes into tier 2 for me.
Okay.
But I guess, then that makes sense for me, because,
So let me ask you, because I know we'll have drafts together. Are you taking Quentin Johnston over Jackson Smith and Jigba in drafts then? Can I hold you to that?
Yeah, I will.
Now that we know draft capital.
I would be taking him. I would be taking him in drafts. Just know that not every single draft I will do it for versatility on my teams.
Okay.
That's what I would say. So don't always expect me if I have the 1-0 something and then Quentin and JSN's there, and I just took Quentin in my last draft and I want to get JSN just to have versatility. Just be ready for that.
That's such a cop out.
How is that a cop out? It's true though. I mean, how many leagues are we in? And then so that means in every single pick that I have the 106 or 105 or whatever it is, I'm just gonna have
I feel
every
so
Quentin
confident
Johnson.
in JSN that if JSN and Quentin are options, I would take JSN every single time.
Sure, but I would like versatility on my team. I would like to
Are
have
you running an actual team or getting fantasy points?
Well, I would like to have multiple. I would like to have different players on my fantasy teams.
All right, look, agree to disagree. I definitely wouldn't have Quentin in the same tier as these other players, but that's fine.
Right.
Okay, I've also got CJ Stroud here.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Anthony Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Bryce Young.
Yeah.
And that's it. And again, this is personally why I have a problem with Quentin being in there, because there's not a scenario in which I'm taking Quentin over those other players, but I don't know.
Sure.
Just difference of opinion.
That's just difference of opinion. Me, I've always have Quentin here. I think he lands in one of the best landing spots with one of the best quarterbacks. Two aging wide receivers. I think he will find himself a role here, whether that's this year or next year. He will be, in my opinion, the wide receiver one on this team in the years to come here. So I'm really happy for Quentin to be in tier 2. And essentially the way I have it is and this is why I broke it down this way, is putting all the wide receivers in tier 3 with Quentin being my wide receiver 1, and then having all the quarterbacks and Jahmyr Gibbs in tier 2.
Sure.
Makes sense in my mind. And because in reality, we're taking all these guys back to back to back in whichever order you want, right? In your rookie drafts. So that's how I have him. And obviously we in tier 1, Bijan, the only 101.
I mean, I would just say, like, the way I use tiers is for drafting, and that's why I'm explaining my position on it.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Because
if
I'm drafting, I am not considering Quentin Johnston in this tier with these other players. So that's why I think it's important to explain the entire purpose of my tiers.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's fair.
But I think that is it. Some disagreements. That's classic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious what the people think. Let us know what you think in the comments below. It definitely does not look very good from the 1-9, 110 onwards. It's a lot of question marks, a lot of unknowns. And I think Charbonnet, his unfortunate situation played a big part in that. Will Levis falling out of the first round played a big part in that. Otherwise, I think we would be a little bit happier with this class. But that is it for today, guys. Do us a favor. Smash that like button. Comment down below. Let us know what you think. And we'll see you guys in the next video. All love. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy. Even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.